Yo, what is good? What is good? What is good, beautiful people? Of course, you know who I be, the good doc, Dr. Mike TV, back again once again. As I sit here and chill outside real quick before I head out to go take care of some stuff, I wanted to give you guys an honest video. A video that maybe I've talked about briefly or touched on in particular live streams or things of that nature, but I've never physically dedicated a topic in a video specifically to this. But today, ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk to you guys about my first ever experience being called the N-word in the Philippines and how it was truly a wake-up call for myself. So let's get to it. There's no easy way to say this, all right? No easy way to slice it. When any African American hears the N-word, the immediate reaction that they have, likely, depending on circumstances and situation, the immediate reaction is that of defense, that of anger, that of an intense emotion to want to respond back, sometimes physically. And in my experience, the first time that ever happened to me in the Philippines, I can honestly say I felt literally all three of those things. I was walking from the mall going home, and this young guy, he's probably about a teenager, basically walked past me with a smile on his face. I said, "What's up?" He said, "What's up, my N-word?" I'm not gonna say the word, no need for that.
What's up, my nigga?
Now, stop me in my tracks, because when he said it, he wasn't really laughing. He didn't seem like he was scared after he said it. And like his mannerism and his demeanor was so much as if he was waiting for me to respond back to it, as opposed to logically thinking that this was something that would possibly or potentially be offensive to me.
What's up, my nigga?
It was almost as if he was waiting for me to respond back to him with the same thing. And so it caught me off guard. And I have to admit, I walked away from it. I ain't say shit. I just walked home and I was angry. I was mad for about a long period of time. I was pretty upset for probably about, I wouldn't say a long period of time, for a couple of days about it though, you know, because my rule of thumb when in any foreign country is I have to know how to conduct myself in a professional manner. I have to know how not to react to certain things when people are trying to get a rise out of me. I don't think the man was trying to get a rise out of me, but I had to react in a way in which I had to literally think before I acted. Now, as time went on and I thought about it, it dawned on me what the meaning of the N-word is to some in the Philippines. Let me note that only some. Some people use it as a disrespectful term and a way to demean somebody. I understand that. That is definitely a reason why some people would use that. Or if you're mad at somebody who happens to look like me, you'll say it like that. But you also have to understand that if you think about it, some Filipinos actually learn English by listening to hip hop and rap music. And of course, for those of us who listen to the more modern day or even the earlier versions of hip hop and, you know, rap music, you understand that the use of the N-word is very proficient or it's consistent. So imagine if you grow up learning or listening to rap songs and that's kind of how you learn English, by saying, "Yo, what's up, my N-word," some people might look at it as a term of endearment. I'm gonna say a very few limited people are able to get away with the idea of looking at it as a term of endearment. If you have gone to college, if you have any form of education, you'll probably have an understanding of the idea that the use of the N-word is probably not a cool thing to use among somebody like myself. But for those that educate themselves through rap music, you can't really be mad. And the way that he was dressed, the way that he carried himself, as I thought about it, I understood that it wasn't necessarily meant in that particular isolated case. The first time I ever heard the N-word, that's not the way that I believe it was intended to be used. It was like, "Yo, like, what's up, my friend?" Or like, "What's up, my brother?" Or some shit like that. You hear that too. And it just threw a whole wrench in my thoughts because, you know, I'm telling you, man, sometimes you want to put a fist through somebody's face when they say something like that. I try not to let the use of the word ever make me get out of character, but sometimes you just can't help it. All right. So, you know, there have been other times, maybe twice, that has happened wherein you can tell that it was meant to be disrespectful. So you'd be like, yo, come say that shit to my face, you old bitch ass nigga, some shit like that. You want to say some shit like that, but as a man, you got to learn how to get out of yourself and understand that sometimes it's not being used in a disrespectful way, but when it is being used in a disrespectful way, you should be able to come out and say, you know what, man, that's not cool, bro. That's not okay. That's not okay. If you feel like you have the right to explain to them that it's not okay to use that word in front of them, then you give the explanation. But most times I kind of disregard it and just get out of the situation. And I say situation, but you know I meant situation. Now, there is a thing that most Filipinos call foreigners in the Philippines. They call us Joe. Now, this is just a little segue into something that I think you guys need to understand. Now, a lot of Filipinos love to call any guy who is a foreigner from America Joe. I don't know if it was meant to be G.I. Joe, and it was a term that was created during the times when the Philippines had a base in Subic set up or things like that, so they just called all foreigners Joe. Hey, Joe, this. But you'll hear it a lot in the Philippines, guys. You will hear it consistently. If you can go one day without hearing Hey, Joe, or Hello, Joe, I would be absolutely shocked. You know, but that's something you're going to have to learn to deal with too. But in reference to the ideology of hearing the African-American slur, I would like to call it, or a slur that is used to describe an African-American in a negative light, I feel as though you have to be able to think before you act. Because I know that a lot of us are reactionary, myself included. Sometimes, like I tell you, man, I want to put a fist through somebody's face if I ever hear them say some stuff like that. But understand where it's coming from and understand the context. Because again, you can't act up in foreign countries. Nobody wants to be looked at as the ABM, you know, the angry black man. All right? Nobody wants to be known as an ABM. And I'm the type. I don't want to be known as that dude. That's why I try not to let it get to me, or I try not to let people know that I'm fazed by it, even if I may or may not be. Most times I'm not. After hearing it for the first time and after really learning myself about that, nobody had to explain to me the reason why. I kind of picked up on that on my own. Because I'm telling you, if there's one thing that I noticed in the Philippines, and a lot of people notice this, one thing I want you to note. When you go to the mall, if you ever find yourself in the mall, I know you're not going to the mall right now, pandemic time, whatever, but if you ever find yourself in a Philippine mall, listen to the music. Listen to the music that they play in the mall. They do not play edited versions of songs. They play the explicit versions of songs. I mean, I hear the N-word, I hear, you know, any explicit terminology used in a particular song, they're gonna say the word. I can't think of one off the top of my head, but I'm telling you, I've been sitting in Starbucks or I've been walking around SM and the damn something comes on and I like, yo, did he just say what I think he said when he said it? And yes, they really did. They do not edit these songs or these, you know, the music that they play in the mall. So imagine, even on TV, I think that they kind of edit it, but sometimes they might miss a cuss word or two, and that'll throw me off as well. So I want you to understand that when you come into a different element, I don't want you to believe or have the thought or the inclination that when somebody says it, it's gonna automatically be assumed to be from a negative aspect. I don't want you to think that it's automatically going to be assumed as a negative connotation, or they're using it in a negative light to describe you as the color of your skin. Sometimes, you know, you may hear, hey, Joe. Sometimes, I'll be honest, you'll hear, yo, Negro, or some shit like that. You'll hear it. But you got to understand, Negritas and, you know, the whole ideology of the tribal Filipinos and the Aedas and stuff like that. That's kind of where that shit comes from, too. So I'm not gonna say you're gonna hear it as often. I would never say that Filipinos are racist or anything like that, but I have to let you know that you gotta be careful about how you become reactionary to the way people speak, or the terminology that some people use. That's all I'm trying to encourage in this video. I want you to be very, very cautious about how you choose to react to certain situations. I know I am just no different than anybody else. I feel like everybody else does. I can be emotionally pissed off like everybody else does. Especially if it's something that I don't see coming. If you say some shit that throw me off, it's very rare that I let anybody get me off my pivot, but sometimes it happens. And when somebody calls you the N-word and you're not expecting it, because there's no argument or anything happened, it's just somebody walking past you saying, "Hey, what's up, my N?" It'll pause you in your steps. I will tell you that. And a lot of guys ask me, my brothers as well, they ask me, "Yo, Mike, is it a lot of racism in the Philippines?" Not really, no. I'm not going to say that everybody is welcoming you with open arms, but that's foreigners in general. You understand? It's not just you as an isolated foreigner being whatever race you are. Sometimes you just have people who don't necessarily interact, or like a particular race of foreigner too. So it's just the way it is, man. It's nothing that you should take to heart. It's nothing that you should ever think is a generalization or a broad stroke of the country wherein everybody is like this. You may have an isolated incident with a female who says, "I don't date black guys," or some shit like that. Don't think that just because one girl says she don't date black guys that all the Filipinos don't date black guys, all right? So that's just my little talk that I wanted to have with you guys today. It was a real one. It was honest. I'm telling you, just be careful how you react to people who may say the word. Sometimes it's not meant to be as disrespectful as we take it. Let me say that one more time. Sometimes the use of the word is not meant to be as disrespectful as we assume it or as we take it to be. Operative word there is sometimes, all right? Sometimes you got some assholes that need to be put in their place. You understand? That being said, the Good Doc is officially out back in the great state of North Carolina. At least Nakopa Alam, which means I love you guys. Mahakita, Mabuha. Deuces.
What's up, my nigga?